Hi guys, my name is Noni Matigela. Welcome to the Noni M podcast. Today, I want us to talk about the Senzo Meyiwa case, what has happened, all the contradictions since the trial began. I saw this on Facebook on a group called Senzo Meyiwa Made a Trial, and the author of this is Olubogeng Lebza Kenneth Khopane. Let's say Kenneth Lebza Lebu Kenneth Khopane. I don't know how to pronounce your name, say I'm so sorry, but I love your analysis. Thank you so much. So I am reading this and I will make my 2 cents opinions as we go by. But he's an excellent writer, that I can tell you. He's very good, very smart, very, very intelligent guy. When he puts the pen on paper, damn. Okay, when he types, damn you, Marlena, he does the things. I'm so moved by how he writes. I wish Nam was, but his brain cells are on point. That's what I'm giving. Okay. Now, guys, before we get into doing that, guys, please make sure you do not forget to like, to share, to comment, and most importantly, please make sure you are not forgetting to subscribe on the channel. Please make sure you are watching the videos up until the end, and you are watching the ads that are coming through. When you're doing that, you will be supporting this channel financially and in numbers. Guys, on social media, everything is about engagement. So please make sure that you engage. Thank you so much. Now, all contradictions since the trial began, defense responses and challenges, judicial conduct and its perceived alignment with the state, all mid-trial evidence admitted, major rulings in favor of the state and their implications, state versus the accused, contradictions in the, from 1 to 5, what I just read, he's just stating what he's going to be talking about in the entire document, whatever that he's writing, okay? State versus accused, contradictions in the state witness testimonies. Sergeant Thabo Mosia versus late General Philanthropy. Sergeant Thabo Mosia claimed he wasn't direct to the scene, but a 2019 affidavit by Ndlovu stated otherwise. Undermines crime scene protocol and reliability of forensic handling. Contradicted each other about who was first alerted and who called for help, for medical help. Sorry, Zandile Khumalo versus Ndabiseng Mokhete. Okay, let's start. I think it's because I was busy thinking and I'm like, what did I just read? Okay. Contradictions in state witness testimonies. Sergeant Thabo Mosia versus late Brigadier Philani. Sergeant Mosia claimed he wasn't directly directed to the scene, but a 2019 affidavit by Ndlovu stated otherwise. Okay, and then the reason I was thinking, and then after that, Ndlovu, when did Ndlovu die? But Ndlovu dies. Maybe after we heard this story or when, I don't know, but he died. He died also, General Brigadier Ndlovu, after that. Okay. And then he died. Allegedly, there were allegations that he was poisoned. And then because his wife was trying to find out what happened to her husband, she was also shot dead in Vosloorus. Now, so that's why I was like, okay. Now, undermines crime scene protocol and reliability of forensic handling. Zandile Khumalo versus Ndabiseng Mokhete contradicted each other about who was first alerted and who called for medical help. Affected the timeline and credibility of first responders. Number and language of intruders. Witnesses differed on whether there were 2 or 5 assailants and whether they spoke isiZulu or another language. Raised suspicion around possible witness coaching or confusion. Gunshot and escape dynamics. Some heard 1 or 2 gunshots, others reported 3. Some claimed all intruders fled together. Others said in different directions. Longwetwala's alleged injury. Former advocate claimed he shot himself. A video from 27 October 2014 shows him walking without injury. Photography of accused Mncube with gold tooth. State alleges it's from 2nd September 2014, but defense argues Mncube was in custody until 17 September 2014. Second, this defense strategy versus and response. Conducted rigorous cross-examinations. Raised consistent objections to procedural fairness and late disclosures. Requested independent photo and metadata analysis, but were denied support and resources. Challenged the voluntariness of confessions to statements and citing torture. 3, judicial conduct and perceived alignment with the state. Judge made controversial racial remarks, apologized publicly, and offered to recuse himself. Frequently chased the defense while allowing latitude for the state. Refused to compel to the state to assist with ICT equipment, despite the defense citing legal aid constraints. 4, mid-trial evidence admitted by the courts. Evidence, description, defense objection, judicial ruling. Video of Twala walking 2025 showed Twala walking without injury. Late disclosure admitted, judge deemed it clarifying. Cell phone images, Mncube and others. Firearms, my killing machine. Caption, claiming manipulation and late disclosure. Admitted, court refused to compel ICT sharing. Selfie of a gold tooth allegedly showed Mncube. Said it depicted deceased brother. No analysis tools admitted. Court required defense to bring own experts. Photos from police server, June 2025. Images of all accused introduced mid-trial, not disclosed in evidence in chief, admitted. State cited volume of data as courts. Confessions, trial within a trial from Danzi and Sibiya, allegedly obtained through torture. Judge ruled admissible as voluntarily. 5, implications of admitted evidence and state favorable rulings. Procedural imbalance, late stage evidence undermined defense readiness and fairness. Perceived bias. The court's refusal to intervene in ICT and disclosure challenges affected perceived neutrality. Ground for appeal, cumulative rulings could form the basis of a constitutional appeal under Section 35.3. Public trust, judicial discretion, and commentary risk eroding faith in the system, especially in a high-profile matter. From its inception, the Senzo Meyiwa murder trial has been shaped by deep contradictions in state witnesses' narratives, contested forensic and photographic evidence, and courtroom dynamics that have raised alarms about procedural equality and judicial fairness. The cumulative pattern of late disclosures, uneven courtroom treatment, and controversial judicial conduct may critically shape both the verdict and the case's long-term legacy in South African legal landscape. Someone says, spot on, Lebza, Kenneth Kopana. We truly miss your daily updates on this court session. Please do update us again on what's happening daily in court, as some of us can't keep up with it due to work and other commitments. And indeed, this guy is brilliant, guys. When he puts his notes down, damn, like you can actually follow up. It will feel like you were watching the case, I promise you, when you go through what he does and how he puts down everything. I'm going to do another video regarding what he said about other matters, but this was the first one I wanted to do. Thank you so much, guys. I really appreciate you. And thank you to Lebu, Kenneth Khopane. I know it was a public donation, so we can use it, but still, it's his work. It's his, yes, it's something that we all know of, but how he puts it, damn it, damn it, damn it. Say, I wish I could interview him. I should inbox him and have a conversation with him, even if he hides himself if he wants to, but I don't think so. I should. Anyway, guys, thank you so much. Please engage with this. Tell me what you think about his everything that he said here. What are your thoughts when it comes to the contradictions since the trial began? How are you feeling about it? Where do you see this going? Do you think that he's spot on? Because I also think that he's spot on. I think this is brilliant. I think that the person that says this needs to be emailed to NPA is right. NPA, the judiciary, and that committee that is in parliament, they need to see this. These are the things that happened in the courtroom, especially the one of Judge Rata. What are your thoughts when it comes to that? Let's talk comment section. I love you so much. Thank you. Enjoy your day. Bye-bye.